There's a powerful truth we often forget. Growth is not something that just happens. It doesn't arrive by accident, and it certainly doesn't knock politely on the door asking if we're ready. Growth shows up only when we invite it, daily, deliberately, and sometimes uncomfortably. The world we live in tells us that life is about achievement. Accomplish more, win more, earn more. And while there's nothing wrong with those goals, they're incomplete. What's more important than what you accomplish is who you become in the process. Growth isn't about ticking boxes, it's about transformation. Internal, consistent, personal evolution that begins the moment we decide to stop coasting. No one wakes up great. No one stumbles into excellence. Behind every leader who inspires us, every creator who moves us, and every person who radiates depth and character, there's one shared habit. They made the decision to grow. Every single day. It's tempting to wait. We wait for the right mood, the right environment, the right time. We convince ourselves that once things settle down, we'll start working on ourselves. But growth doesn't wait for conditions to be perfect. It begins the moment we stop making excuses. And the most difficult truth of all is this: the people who grow the most are the ones who force themselves to do it. That word force can sound harsh, but in reality, forcing yourself to grow isn't about punishment. It's about love. It's about caring deeply for your potential, enough to challenge yourself even when it's hard. It's about waking up and choosing discomfort, not because you enjoy the struggle, but because you believe in the outcome. We're conditioned to avoid discomfort. We seek ease, convenience, instant gratification. And yet, every meaningful thing in life, resilience, wisdom, mastery, confidence, requires discomfort first. The gym hurts before you get strong. The feedback stings before it makes you better. The truth can feel like a punch before it sets you free. If we only do what feels good, we'll stay exactly where we are. And the cost of staying the same is far greater than the temporary pain of growth. You don't have to take massive leaps. You don't need to become a different person overnight. Daily growth is about small, intentional choices. It's waking up and deciding to read 10 pages instead of scrolling endlessly. It's having one tough conversation instead of hiding behind silence. It's taking 5 minutes to reflect rather than rushing from one distraction to the next. What we do daily becomes who we are permanently. And what often separates those who change the world from those who simply exist in it isn't talent, it's discipline. It's not brilliance, it's the courage to show up even when they don't feel like it. 1%, that's the number. Grow by 1% every day. It doesn't sound like much, but it compounds. Over time, 1% becomes a massive shift. Habits harden, mindsets evolve, skills sharpen. That small act of forcing yourself to show up today becomes the reason you're unrecognizable a year from now, in the best way. It's easy to admire people who seem to have it all figured out, but the truth is, they didn't start there. They began exactly where you are, uncertain, flawed, doubting themselves. The difference? They chose to do the work anyway. They chose to grow, especially when they didn't feel like it. People will notice the change, but more importantly, you'll notice it. You'll wake up with a different energy. You'll walk into rooms with quiet confidence. You'll become the kind of person others want to follow, not because of what you've done, but because of how you live. Growth doesn't always feel good, but it always leaves you better than it found you. The question is never, do I want to grow? The real question is, will I choose to? Force yourself to grow today, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's inconvenient, even if it's imperfect. Because that small decision is the seed of greatness. Not the kind of greatness the world measures in numbers, titles, or likes, but the kind of greatness that shows up when no one is watching. The kind that shapes how you lead, how you love, how you serve, and how you show up for the people who count on you. You're not stuck, you're not powerless, you're just one choice away from momentum. And that choice is yours every single day. Force yourself to grow, not because you hate who you are, but because you believe in who you're becoming. We are wired to seek comfort. As human beings, our natural instinct is to move towards safety, to avoid risk, and to stay within what we already know. It's a biological response, a survival mechanism that helped our ancestors stay alive. But in today's world, survival isn't the goal. Growth is. And ironically, the very instinct that once protected us has become the thing that now holds us back. Comfort feels good, but it's dangerous. It's the most seductive trap because it disguises itself as peace. It tells us we're okay. It tells us we've done enough. It whispers that slowing down is deserved and risk is unnecessary. And slowly, without noticing, we stop reaching, stop pushing, stop daring. We stop becoming. The moment we get comfortable is the moment we start settling. And the moment we settle is the moment we start progressing. Progress doesn't come from doing what you've always done. It doesn't come from mastering routines. It comes from stepping into unfamiliar territory, where things are uncertain and the outcomes aren't guaranteed. That's what makes growth so uncomfortable. It demands that we leave the safety of what we know for the possibility of what we can become. And let's be honest, it's easier not to. It's easier to stay in the job we know, even if we're unfulfilled. It's easier to keep the same habits, even when they're no longer serving us. It's easier to keep quiet rather than speak up. But what is easy rarely leads to what is meaningful. You'll never know how far you can go until you're willing to go somewhere you haven't been. And that's the paradox. Real growth happens just beyond what's comfortable. It's in the hard conversations, the early mornings, the repeated failures, the moments when everything in you wants to quit. That's where strength is forged. That's where resilience is born. Look at anyone who's doing meaningful work. Any leader who inspires you, any artist whose words stay with you, any human being who radiates purpose. None of them got there by staying comfortable. They got there by leaning into the unknown, by doing things that made their hands shake and their voice tremble. They got there by trading comfort for conviction. We like the idea of growth, but not the process. We want the results without the resistance. But there is no shortcut. The path to becoming better is paved with effort, doubt, and discipline. And here's what most people miss. Discomfort is not a sign something is wrong. It's a sign something is working. It's a signal that you're stretching, that you're doing something new, that you're evolving. Progress never happens in the comfort zone because comfort doesn't ask anything of you. It doesn't challenge your beliefs. It doesn't confront your patterns. It doesn't wake you up at 5 a.m. or force you to reflect. Comfort just lets you drift. And drifting may feel peaceful for a while, but eventually you'll look up and realize you've gone nowhere. It's not that people don't want to grow, it's that they don't want to feel the growing pains. But you can't have one without the other. Growth is not just something that happens to us, it's something we choose, moment by moment, decision by decision. And each of those decisions will either stretch you or soothe you. The difference is whether you choose the easy road or the one that requires courage. There's no progress without risk. And there's no risk without vulnerability. You will fail. You will make mistakes. You will second guess yourself. But that's okay. Failure is not the opposite of growth. It's part of it. Every time you fall short, you learn. Every time you mess up, you sharpen your awareness. That discomfort you feel, that's the cost of becoming better. And yet most people avoid that cost. They convince themselves that where they are is good enough. But the danger of good enough is that it keeps you from discovering what could be. It keeps you playing small, thinking small, and living small when there's something far greater waiting on the other side of your effort. You don't have to make radical changes overnight, but you do have to stop choosing comfort by default. You have to start challenging yourself, not to prove anything to others, but to honor your own potential. Ask more of yourself. Expect more from yourself. Because you are capable of far more than you know, but you'll never find out until you push. That push might look different for everyone. For one person, it's having the courage to start something new. For another, it's finally letting go of what's familiar but unfulfilling. For someone else, it's speaking up for the first time or stepping forward when no one else will. The point isn't what the challenge is. The point is that it makes you move. The comfort zone is quiet, but progress is loud. It shakes you, it humbles you, it asks you to take responsibility. And if you embrace it, it will change you. You'll begin to realize that growth isn't a phase, it's a lifestyle. It's not something you check off a list. It's a daily practice of choosing courage over convenience, growth over stagnation, purpose over predictability. People often wait until they feel ready. But readiness is a myth. If you wait until you're ready, you'll never start. The truth is, you become ready by starting. You don't wait for growth, you initiate it. You don't wait for the right moment, you create it. So if you want to grow, really grow, then stop waiting to feel comfortable. Stop waiting to be confident. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Because comfort is not your ally, it's not your friend. It's your barrier. And the moment you stop seeking it is the moment you start building the life you're capable of. Everything you want is on the other side of what you're avoiding. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. But the good news, you also have the ability to rise, to face the fear, to lean into the uncertainty. And when you do, you'll discover something extraordinary, not just about the world, but about yourself. You'll realize you didn't need more time or more knowledge, you just needed to be willing to step forward, willing to stumble, willing to grow. And that willingness, that daily choice, is what makes all the difference. So don't wait for comfort, choose growth instead. Because comfort may feel safe, but growth will set you free. Discipline gets a bad reputation. When most people hear the word, they think of punishment, rules, or something strict and joyless. But that's a narrow view, because real discipline, true, transformative discipline, is not about restriction. It's about devotion. It's about keeping promises to yourself. And at its deepest level, discipline is love in action. When you love something deeply, you protect it, you nourish it, you show up for it, especially when it's inconvenient. That's what love looks like. And the same is true for yourself. If you truly care about the person you're becoming, if you genuinely want to live with purpose and integrity, then discipline is the highest form of self-respect you can practice. It's easy to say you love your goals. It's easy to speak about your dreams with passion. But talk isn't hard. The real test is whether you're willing to make the difficult decisions that support those dreams when no one's watching. That's discipline. The willingness to say, I'm going to do what I said I would do, even when it's not convenient, even when it's not fun, even when I feel like giving up. Discipline is not something you find, it's something you build. It's a habit, shaped in the small hours of the morning, in the quiet moments of resistance, in the countless times you choose progress over comfort. It's forged in silence, long before anyone else sees the results. And it grows stronger every time you follow through on your values, not your feelings. Your feelings are fleeting. They come and go with the weather, with your energy, with your environment. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It asks, what do you stand for? It keeps you anchored when everything else is shifting. It keeps you moving when motivation disappears. There's this common belief that successful people are always motivated. But that's not true. The difference isn't motivation, it's discipline. They don't rely on the spark. They rely on their system. They understand that waiting to feel inspired is a luxury they can't afford. So they act anyway. They move forward anyway. Because they know that consistency builds momentum. And momentum builds change. And here's the truth most people overlook. Discipline isn't about grinding yourself into exhaustion. It's not about suffering. It's about alignment. It's about bringing your actions into harmony with your values. When you are disciplined, you begin to trust yourself. You begin to believe your own words. You build a reputation with yourself. And that's the foundation of true confidence. We talk a lot about self-love, but we rarely talk about what it looks like in practice. Self-love isn't spa days and feel-good quotes. It's choosing the hard thing now so your future self can have peace. It's getting up early to move your body, not because it's easy, but because your health matters. It's doing the deep work instead of scrolling endlessly because your mind matters. It's holding boundaries, finishing what you start, and speaking to yourself with truth, not just comfort. That's love, not the easy kind, the real kind, the kind that requires effort, intention, and commitment. Discipline is how you show love to the person you're becoming. And yes, it will feel hard. You will want to quit. You will have days when everything in you screams for rest, escape, or distraction. And in those moments, the easiest thing to do will be to give in. But discipline whispers a different message. It says, remember why you started. Remember who you're doing this for. Discipline connects you to your future self. Every time you act with discipline, you send a signal to the version of you 5 years from now that you're fighting for them. That you're building a life with intention, not just reaction. That you're serious about becoming someone better, not just someone busier. We admire people who are consistent, not because they are perfect, but because they are committed. They've chosen to be steady when the world offers chaos. They've chosen to be grounded when others are scattered. And that steadiness, that's what creates trust. Trust in leadership, trust in character, and most importantly, trust in yourself. But here's the truth. Discipline is a decision you have to make every single day. There's no arrival. There's no finish line. There's just this moment, this choice, and then the next. Discipline is less about grand declarations and more about small, repeated decisions that align with your deeper purpose. You don't become great by doing something once. You become great by doing the right things over and over again until excellence becomes part of who you are, until showing up becomes automatic, until the gap between who you want to be and how you live disappears. We're all tempted to chase shortcuts, to look for hacks and fast results. But discipline doesn't rush. It builds slowly, quietly beneath the surface. And then one day, the world sees the fruit, but they weren't there for the roots. They weren't there when you said no to distractions. They didn't witness the sacrifices, the late nights, the self-reflection. But you did. And that's what matters. Because when you live with discipline, you don't need external validation. You know what you've built. You know what it cost. And that quiet pride, the kind that comes from doing the hard things consistently, that's the real reward. Your potential isn't defined by your ideas, your talent, or even your intentions. It's defined by your discipline. by your willingness to act on what matters, to do the work when it's not exciting, to keep going when the applause stops, to keep growing when no one is watching. The most loving thing you can do for yourself and for the people who depend on you is to be disciplined. Not rigid, not controlled, but clear, committed, and aligned. When you operate from discipline, you don't just improve your life, you elevate everyone around you. You lead by example, you create standards, you raise the bar. And the beautiful thing about discipline, it's available to everyone. It's not about intelligence or background or circumstances, it's about choice. It's about choosing to honor your vision, your values, and your future, even when it's hard. So the next time you feel the urge to give up or take the easy way out, remember this: discipline isn't punishment. It's a declaration of love for your mission, your purpose, and yourself. Show up, follow through, stay consistent. That's what love looks like in action. That's what discipline truly is. We all want breakthroughs. We dream about big moments, the dramatic transformation, the sudden success, the overnight victory. But those moments, as inspiring as they are, rarely happen the way we imagine. In fact, most of what we call overnight success is just the world noticing results from years of unseen effort. Because real growth doesn't happen in a flash. It happens gradually, quietly, in the accumulation of small wins over time. But we often overlook those wins. We dismiss them because they're not loud or impressive. We don't celebrate getting up early one day or saying no to a distraction or making a difficult choice that aligns with our values. We tell ourselves it's not enough, that it doesn't matter. But it does. That small decision done with intention is the seed of transformation. And when we repeat those kinds of decisions over and over, something extraordinary begins to happen. Success is not built in miles, it's built in inches. And those inches are earned in moments that most people walk past. The difference between people who grow and people who stay stuck isn't talent or luck. It's that the ones who grow don't wait for big breakthroughs. They create momentum from the little things. They honor the process even when it's invisible. It's easy to get impatient. In a world that glorifies fast results, we've come to believe that if something doesn't change instantly, it's not working. But the most important changes are invisible at first. Just because you don't see the results doesn't mean they aren't happening. The seed takes time to root before it breaks the soil. The muscle needs repeated strain before it grows. The mind needs consistency before it rewires. And so does your character. Small wins might not change the world overnight, but they change you. And when you change, everything else begins to follow. You start making different choices. You begin to walk with more clarity, speak with more courage, and act with more purpose. And the people around you notice. Not all at once, but slowly, steadily, inevitably. That's the power of compounding. One small win doesn't feel like much. Two might still feel like nothing. But over time, they stack, they build momentum. And eventually, they shift the direction of your life. You didn't leap forward, you inched forward. But enough inches lead to a mile. Enough quiet victories lead to visible change. Too often, we quit because we can't see the finish line. We assume our effort isn't paying off because the results aren't obvious. But progress doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes, the most meaningful steps forward are the ones no one claps for. They don't come with fireworks, but they matter deeply because they reinforce your identity. Every small win sends a signal to your brain. I am becoming the kind of person who follows through. That's how confidence is built. Not by proving something to the world, but by proving something to yourself, by showing up consistently, by doing the work when it's unglamorous, by doing what's right, not just what's easy. Each small win is a deposit in the bank of trust. And the more deposits you make, the richer your self-belief becomes. Think about it. Most of the things you're proud of didn't come from one massive event. They came from a series of deliberate decisions. Days when you could have chosen to slack off but didn't. Conversations you could have avoided but had anyway. Moments when no one was watching but you held yourself accountable. That's what builds legacy. Not noise. Not trends. But depth. Discipline. Devotion. And the courage to keep going when it would be easier to stop. The beauty of small wins is that they're always within reach. You don't need to be at your best. You don't need ideal conditions. You just need to take the next step. You don't have to run the marathon today. Just lace up your shoes. You don't have to write the whole book. Just write one sentence. You don't have to solve your entire life. Just make one strong choice. That's how progress works. That's how confidence builds. That's how momentum begins. And once you start, something shifts. You begin to feel capable. Not because the path got easier, but because you took action despite the difficulty. That action, no matter how small, plants a flag in your mind. I showed up today. And showing up repeatedly, that's where transformation lives. We forget that big things are built from small things. The tallest buildings are assembled one brick at a time. The strongest relationships are shaped one conversation at a time. The best leaders are forged one decision at a time. There's no escaping this truth. Meaningful things take time, but more importantly, they take consistency. The best part? This applies to everything. Your health, your career, your mindset, your character. None of them require you to be perfect. They just require you to keep going, to keep showing up, to keep doing the next right thing. And if you stay the course, something amazing happens. The effort that once felt hard becomes who you are. You become the kind of person who honors your habits, protects your time, invests in your growth, and shows up for others. Not because you had one breakthrough moment, but because you built a lifestyle of small, consistent wins. And eventually, the gap between who you are and who you want to be starts to close. That's how you win. Not all at once, not with noise, but with quiet resolve and consistent effort. One decision at a time. One day at a time. So if you're in a season where things feel slow, keep going. If the progress isn't visible yet, keep going. If no one's clapping for you, keep going. You're not failing, you're building. And one day the results will speak so loudly that you won't have to. The people who change their lives aren't always the boldest. They're the most consistent. They understood the power of small wins, and they never stopped stacking them. Your small win today may look unremarkable, but in the long run, it could be the exact moment that changed everything. Growth is lonely. Not all the time, but often in the beginning. Especially the kind of growth that matters. Not the kind you post about, not the kind that gets applause, but the kind that happens in the quiet, behind closed doors, when no one is watching, and no one even knows you're trying. That kind of growth is invisible. But it's also the most important. We live in a culture obsessed with validation. We chase likes, recognition, and approval as if they are markers of progress. But the truth is, the most meaningful change happens in the dark, before the spotlight, before the acknowledgement, before anyone even believes in you. The most significant transformation happens when you're growing for you, not for the praise, not for the credit, but because you know you must. It's easy to work hard when people are cheering you on. It's easy to stay disciplined when your efforts are being noticed. But the real test of character, the real measure of your commitment, is who you are when no one's clapping. What you do when no one's looking. Whether you still choose to grow even when no one tells you they see you. Because that's what integrity looks like. It's not doing the right thing for recognition. It's doing the right thing because it's who you are. And growth requires integrity. It demands that you choose the harder path again and again, not because others expect it, but because you've decided that the future you're building is worth the quiet sacrifice today. Every leader, every creator, every person who ever built something meaningful went through a season where no one understood what they were doing. They looked like they were standing still while everyone else was rushing ahead. They were mocked, misunderstood, doubted. But they didn't stop because they weren't growing for attention. They were growing to become someone better. They were becoming something stronger. Growth in private is powerful because it teaches you to be your own source of motivation. It builds a foundation of resilience. It teaches you not to depend on applause to keep going. And in doing so, it makes you unshakable. If your growth depends on others watching, you will collapse the moment the spotlight disappears. But if you grow for yourself, quietly, consistently, you become rooted. And the stronger your roots, the taller you can rise. The deeper your foundation, the more you can handle what the world throws at you. Trees don't start tall. They grow down first. They find strength in the unseen. And you must too. When no one notices your growth, it's a gift. It means your roots are still forming. It means you're building something real. This world confuses noise with progress. But growth is often silent. You don't see the change until one day something small shifts. Your reaction is calmer, your focus is sharper, your words carry more weight, your boundaries are clearer, and then you realize, I've changed. Not all at once, not for show, but deeply for real. You must be willing to keep growing, even when there's no proof that it's working. That's what separates those who endure from those who quit. Anyone can start a journey when it's exciting. Few stay the course when it's quiet. The silence doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're forming. You grow when you read the extra page, when you reflect instead of react, when you choose discomfort over distraction, when you stay the course instead of chasing the next shiny thing. These acts won't go viral. No one will repost them. But they matter. They shape who you become. And who you become shapes everything. If you want to lead, to serve, to build something lasting, you must first grow alone. Because that solitude teaches you clarity. It teaches you what matters. It reveals your convictions. In solitude, you discover that your mission is stronger than your mood, that your vision matters more than your validation, that your values are worth standing on even when no one's standing with you. The moment you decide to grow without needing to be seen is the moment you reclaim your power. You stop waiting for permission. You stop hoping for recognition. You start building from within. You become the kind of person others can rely on because you no longer rely on them to keep going. Eventually, yes, people will notice, but by then, the applause won't matter as much because the pride you feel from becoming the person you said you'd be, that pride is internal. It's unshakable. It's not built on compliments. It's built on consistency. And no one can take that from you. You don't need a stage to validate your steps. Your growth is valuable even if it's invisible, especially if it's invisible, because invisible growth is real growth. It's patient, it's resilient, it's honest, and it lasts. So if you're in a season where no one sees the effort you're putting in, don't stop. If no one is cheering you on, cheer for yourself. If no one sees your vision, protect it anyway. Keep going. keep building, keep becoming, your growth is not a performance. It's a promise. A promise to your future. A promise to your purpose. A promise to your potential. You must grow even when no one notices. Because one day, when it all comes together, they will. And by then, you won't need their approval. You'll already know who you are.